Good morning. It is April the 21st, 2022. It's 10 a.m. here in Columbia, South Carolina at the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs. We are holding our regular April meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order and begin by asking Commissioner Robin Blackwood to please read the notice of meeting statement.
A meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place of the April 21st, 2022 Commission meeting was distributed April 19th, 2022 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website, Americans with Disabilities Act. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistants, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Well, we welcome you this morning, and the first thing I'd like to do is welcome our new staff members that are on board this morning. Dr. Harley Davidson, would you like to come? She is our new Chief Administrative Officer, and we certainly welcome her to DDSN. And it was just wonderful to have you with us.
So much.
Now, I want you to tell these folks a little bit about yourself and where you came from and what what you're going to be doing here at DDSN.
Yes, ma'am. So my name is Harley Davis. I'm the new Chief Administrative Officer here at the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs. I come from DHEC. I was there for just over 8 years, where I managed multiple public health surveillance programs.
Okay.
And also helped facilitate a number of agency-wide initiatives. So I'm really excited to bring my experiences from state government and in management at state government to DDSN and support the work that's being done here and the populations that we serve.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome
Thank you.
to DDSN.
Thank you so much.
Picture real quick.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't grab it earlier.
You just served multiple functions.
I don't know. I do what I'm told. All right. Thank you.
All right. And next we have Pierra Griff. All right. Welcome, PJ. We're glad to have you with us. And is Pacifico. What a wonderful name. Tell us about yourself.
I've come here from the University of Georgia. I work at the Savannah Riverside. I was their communications director over there. I helped them out with rebranding the lab, and did public relations and outreach for them. So I did a program where we took animals to things like special events and classrooms. So we taught them a lot about ecology. Previous to that, I was with the National Wild Turkey Federation. I worked on their communications, like their TV shows, website, magazines, and their newsletters.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to DDSN.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to having you work with us in our communications division.
I look forward to it.
Smile for me. Thank you. Welcome.
Is that the Turkey Federation that's located in Edgefield?
Yes, sir. The world headquarters of everything Turkey is at Edgefield, South Carolina.
They've been after me for some time, and so I've been trying to avoid.
Why? You're a turkey.
Never
Why
understood
that?
that, but
You a turkey hunter?
I don't know, they just call me by my right name, Turkey. You know?
All right. So that is the welcome. I do want to let you all know that Dr. Fry and Commissioner Eddie Miller are in Columbia today. They are over at Senate Medical Affairs doing our regulation approvals today, but they will be here shortly. As soon as that meeting is, or at least our portion of that meeting is complete, they will join us. So just be aware that they are here today and they will be joining us. All right, we're going to move on to the adoption of the agenda that you have before you, commissioners, and I believe it is available online as well. Do I have a motion or a second?
I would ask that we amend the agenda in the interest of time. We have a long agenda.
Yes.
Today, to move the section A under new business, the sound masking of the conference rooms, to under the other technology upgrades that we have, so that can all be done at one time.
So that would go under Finance Committee 1A1 is where it would go. Okay. Do I have a second to that amendment? Okay, we have a motion and a second to that amendment. With the amendment, is everyone in favor of this? Everyone in favor of this agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries and the agenda is amended with that one, is approved with that one amendment. Invocation, Commissioner Malfris, would you like to give the invocation today?
Thank you, ma'am. I'll certainly be honored. Dear Lord, thank you for each commissioner that is here today. And thank you even more for each person who helps anyone with a disability on a daily basis. I realize, as you realize, dear Lord, that that's a very difficult job, and we are thankful for all those that would do that. We would like to remind each person with a disability here today, particularly I'd like to pray for each one of those and for those that help those with disabilities. We would like to remind them that God has a plan for your life and that there's a reason for your existence. And I want you to never, I would ask that you would never give up and that you would fight to reach your potential and to realize that those of us that know Jesus have a future that is brighter than any tomorrow we will ever have here on earth. Forgive the one who prays of his sins, for they are many. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Malfris. All right, we have the March 17th, 2020, 2022 commission meeting minutes in front of you, and you were sent those to review. Are there any changes or amendments to the minutes?
The only thing I would have is that under the portion that relates to amending the agenda, it needs to say unanimously,
Okay.
because it takes a 2/3 majority to do that.
Okay.
So whenever we amended the agenda, it needs to say unanimously.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. All right, anything else?
Thank you.
All right. Hearing nothing other than that one change, all in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries and the minutes are approved. All right, we're going to do our commissioner updates. Commissioner Carter?
Well, I was going to go to the.
Carter, not you yet.
Change your name?
You're not there yet.
I'm his idol. Commissioner Thomas.
That's all right.
It's okay, it was quick, but.
I'll forgive you this time. Go ahead. Take Commissioner next
Good
to you.
morning, good morning. I wore my shirt to remember, so I can remember to thank the people who organized and the sponsors. And also so I can show you my huge solid gold trophy that I won,
Whoa.
but it was virtual.
Oh, no.
So they're gonna give it to me next year.
What event was it?
Brain injury awareness, it was the 5K virtual,
Yes.
which I'm a runner, so I was really excited about it until it became virtual. But I did win because I was the only one there.
Oh. Well, I'm sure you probably would have been some stiff competition to a lot of people too,
That's
so
right.
that's awesome.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, let me jump in. Is it my turn yet?
Did you run a 5K this time?
Right, another.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be
Under,
here after this
In
past
operating room,
month.
in operating room, you did,
Yeah.
right.
Do I have funny stories though? But anyway, I was going to go to the Thrive event that was being put on in the upstate in Fountain Inn, just a couple of miles from my house. But guess what? It turned out when I saw the time, I was aghast because it literally starts today at 10 o'clock. So they just started. So I can't be two places at the same time. So I figured I better show up here.
Yes, I appreciate you being here.
But anyway, Thrive's doing it. It's a prom they're putting on.
Oh, that's awesome.
And with the cooperation of the activity center there in Fountain Inn, so I'm just real proud of them being active locally, and it's a very good group for the upstate.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I hope we'll get to see some photos of that.
I know. I've got to get in touch with the director and see if he can forward me some stuff.
Definitely, definitely. All right, Commissioner Blackwell.
Blackwood.
Blackwood.
Everybody does that, it's okay, it's okay.
It's gonna mess me up
It's something with
today.
I know, we're all, okay. Yes, I do have a few things.
I don't know your name, by the way.
So, first thing I wanted to mention is it is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, and I'm really glad that we have Dr. Katie Frank here today on the agenda to talk a little bit about autism and just bring some more awareness to really how the opportunities to really serve people on the spectrum and how to improve and increase their quality of life. I just want to thank everyone that works with people with autism, individuals with autism, to help them achieve as much as they can, and have the support they need to be as the best that they can be. And I appreciate that tremendously for all that work with people with autism. I also wanted to mention that next week is Early Intervention Professional Week. There are many people that work in early intervention across the state, many DDSM providers that do that. And I just wanted to recognize that because the governor signed a proclamation for next week, April 20th through the 30th, is Early Intervention Professionals Week. And I just wanted to take a minute just to recognize the important work they do to help young kiddos that need a little bit more attention to learn the world around them, whether it's speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and family training, to help the family give them what they need to help support their child and help them meet important milestones and to achieve as much as they can achieve. And my son benefited from early intervention. It made a world of difference for him. So I commend anyone that works with children in that capacity, because it can really make a difference. And I just wanted to recognize that. And then I also wanted just to take a minute, as we all know, moving from a capitated band payment system to fee-for-service has not been easy to do. And we have had many updates on the process along the way. And I know this last month was a pivotal time into the kind of evolving all the changes. It's been, we've been kind of easing into it. And I just wanted to take a moment to say what some of the benefits are from moving to that model, because it was a lot of intensive work on many people within this agency to make it happen. Long hours, a lot of energy expended to make this possible for the individuals that we serve. I just wanted to publicly say thank you again, because I know it's been a very long haul and a lot of work, and I just appreciate everyone's commitment to making it happen. Because fee-for-service model is more efficient matching of state funds with Medicaid funds to increase the overall delivery system without the need for additional state appropriations. That's something to celebrate. I feel like that was the reason we have been pushing to move to fee-for-service for this agency. Increased transparency. Fee-for-service will increase simplicity of operating the service delivery system. It will increase equity and fairness between board providers and contracted service providers. It has many other benefits, but I just wanted to restate those benefits publicly again, because it has been such a huge task for this agency to move to this system. And I just wanted to publicly say thank you again and remind people the benefits of what this work will ultimately mean for our state and our individuals. So that's it.
Appreciate it. Go ahead, welcome.
Thank you, thanks. I do have something to share. So last week I spent the week in Florida at the Collegiate Wheelchair Tennis Nationals, where my daughter participated representing Clemson. They had 3 players in the nationals. They did outstanding. There were 12 universities sent from the United States, around the United States, that participated. So it was a really great showing, a lot of great tennis, and it was a lot of fun, and they came and improved, and it was a good week for Clemson.
Your daughter won her first match.
She won her very first collegiate match. So that was really exciting. She was
initiative. And I hope that the high schools will follow suit to encourage, to encourage that. I think it's great for children to be involved in sports, especially children with disabilities. I think it's an absolutely vital process for us to keep encouraging that. Thank
I
you.
know Clemson is hosting Palmetto Games, which is an adaptive sports in the beginning of May. So that should be a great thing for South Carolina to do.
That's great. That's great.
It's also a wonderful thing for exercise. And we all know that if doctors could prescribe exercise as a pill, it would be the most prescribed pill in the world. So this is wonderful for those with disabilities to have exercise. My preference is horseback riding, but tennis for whomever and whatever else you like to do.
All right, Commissioner Mathers.
Thank you. We're doing the,
Public input.
oh, sorry. My
okay,
mind is
we're
going. I'm
going
thinking about
forward.
something.
You're
I'm thinking
going
about
to
next thing. No, I do not have any public input. I'm sorry. I guess I just did my public input. Sorry. I was thinking about something else.
Well, I do have a little bit of public input. First, I want to let you know that, when we did the meetings around the state in the congressional districts, one of the things we heard is that they would like to see us more and they would like to have better access to us. So at that point, the commission had talked about moving ourselves once a quarter to a part of the state. So we have been researching that. I think Kimberly and those have been working on it in the main office for me. And we have found some locations in the upstate that we will be possibly using. I think they're still trying to pinpoint the exact one, but we will try to move the meeting for June to the upstate. So we will be somewhere in the Greenville, Spartanburg area of that way. We have to find a place that can handle us technology-wise, so that our viewing audiences can see us. But then we also want to make it so that the folks there in those areas can actually come in and have some time with us and, come visit with us and have some one-on-one FaceTime with us. We are going to we're going to try to move that meeting in June. Before that meeting, the night before, once we just kind of go ahead and mark your calendars the night before, we're going to probably do a special meeting that night. So you will probably want to stay overnight if you don't live in that area or close by. We are going to try to do, we've got to do an evaluation on our executive director. Well, she hadn't been here 6 months and we don't have anything to really evaluate her on. So we've got to set her objectives for the next year so that when we do her evaluation, we will have that information available to us. So we will have a special meeting and we will go in executive session to set those objectives for the commission, so that we will know, we'll have something to do her evaluation in 2023, Beth. Okay, so just kind of mark your calendar so that those 2 dates will be marked on your calendar. We'll do it later in the evening. Will be the special call meeting, just kind of like we did one time before. I believe we did it here in Columbia that time, but since we're going up there, we may as well do it up there that night before. Okay, all right. So I just want to make that aware. That's my commissioner update. Still have no public input. Am I correct, Constance? Okay, still no public input, but this is Autism Awareness Month, and we are very excited. We're going to have all kind of things coming out throughout the month about autism awareness, and we're working on a lot of joint task force within the state, and hope to be able to do some announcements about that later in the month. But we would like to welcome Katie Frank, PhD, for the Center for Neurodevelopment, and she's going to talk with us about autism.
Can I come right here?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you so much for the opportunity to join you this morning as you observe Autism Awareness Month. As you've mentioned, my name is Katie Franke. I'm a licensed psychologist and board certified behavior analyst, and I serve as director of clinical services at the Unum Center for Neurodevelopment, which is a nonprofit located just down the street in Columbia. During my time today, I hope to increase awareness of autism spectrum disorder as you celebrate this month and celebrate individuals with autism, as well as build acceptance of individuals with autism and ultimately call for action to support the autism community in South Carolina. Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability that's first evident in early childhood. There is no brain or blood test for autism. Instead, it's diagnosed through oftentimes an hours-long series of interviews and structured observations of an individual's behavior. The core symptoms of autism include difficulties with social communication, including impairments in the back and forth or reciprocity of everyday social interactions, deficits in nonverbal communication. So that might include reduced eye contact or use of gestures, and difficulties establishing and maintaining relationships compared to other individuals at their age or developmental level. A diagnosis of autism also requires the presence of repetitive behaviors. This could include repetitive body movements or vocalizations, highly specific or narrow interests, difficulties or resistance to change in routine, or atypical responses or strong interest in specific sensory input. Autism is a spectrum disorder, as is embedded in the name, which means that individuals with autism do have varying levels of impairment. While some individuals may have fluent language, for example, others may not use vocal language to communicate at all. And approximately 31% of individuals with autism also meet criteria for intellectual disability. The treatment of autism is often multidisciplinary and takes a team approach, including early intervention. As we mentioned, we're celebrating those professionals next week, as well as speech, occupational, physical therapy, medicine, psychology. It takes a whole team to appropriately support many individuals with autism. Applied behavior analysis is considered one of the primary treatments and has a very strong evidence base. And ABA is the science of why humans behave the way they do. And behavior analysts, who are the practitioners of ABA, use this science to identify every individual's that we're working with preferences, goals, values, and build a highly individualized way to teach important life skills. ABA can be used to teach communication, hygiene, daily living skills, friendship skills, job skills, employment, necessary skills for employment, as well as reduce, when appropriate, dangerous or maladaptive behaviors. I do always like to note when discussing ABA that it's not only effective for individuals with autism. There is a wealth of scientific literature showing how ABA principles are effective for everything from smoking cessation to maximizing athletic performance on the field to improving corporate productivity. It's a very applicable science in a lot of areas. The nonprofit where I work, the Unum Center for Neurodevelopment, provides ABA services at a variety of levels. Ranging from intensive ABA programs, which might include up to 35 hours a week of one-on-one individualized therapy for individuals between 2 and 21 years of age, to social skills groups that meet for an hour a week, and summer camps that embed instruction based in the science of ABA, to individual and family psychotherapy that practices from a cognitive behavioral lens. We try to meet every individual where they are and provide the appropriate level of support within this field. The individuals and families I've worked with throughout my career have taught me so very much. They've taught me about the diet of the Pachyosaurus, as well as how to correctly pronounce Pachyosaurus. They have taught me how to be present in the moment and enjoy blowing bubbles and playing in shaving cream. I think I have the coolest job, where else is there literally a bounce castle outside my office that I can go jump in after, a difficult morning. Or they've taught me that not all communication is vocal. There are many ways to communicate aside from the way that I'm doing right now. They've shown me pure joy when they're invited to their first birthday party or get to connect with someone with common interest after maybe many years of difficulty connecting with peers. They've taught me how a parent's fierce love and determination can move mountains for a child. These are just a few examples of the heartwarming stories that we often share and celebrate during Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. And we do that for good reason. Because these stories or these examples are just a tiny snapshot of the resilience, enthusiasm, and passion for life that individuals with autism and their families demonstrate on a daily basis. The individuals and families I've served have also taught me difficult and raw truths that don't always look or feel as good in a headline and may not get as much awareness during this month. They've taught me that it can be isolating to have a child with a severe disability. There's difficult decisions, agonizing decisions for families that they must make at times when maybe a child with a disability is aggressive to their sibling, and how to balance that. They've taught me how much young adults with autism have to contribute in the workplace and how much they want to contribute in the workplace and how few opportunities do currently exist. They've taught me about the financial strain of having a child with a severe disability. And these truths lead to my call to action for today. Even before the pandemic, there was a shortage of providers who were qualified to diagnose and support individuals with autism and their families in our state. And since the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, this backlog has become even greater. Most measures, not all, but most measures that are used during an assessment for autism require fairly extensive face-to-face interactions. And certainly the shutdowns of 2020 resulted in months-long backlog that providers are still trying to work through. This is even more difficult of a truth when the research is clear that early identification and early treatment of autism results in the most positive outcomes for individuals. And it's difficult to see those months go by with wait lists that you're actively trying to work through. After diagnosis, the treatment of autism does require specialized skills and training. I hope that South Carolina will be able to increase the number of providers with this specialized training, especially related to the treatment of severe behavior that can co-occur with autism, that can leave few options for families who desperately need support to address those more difficult truths like self-injury or aggression or other unsafe behaviors. Providers in the state are absolutely doing everything they can to serve their clients and families, and there are not enough providers to address the high demand for services. This month, I hope our state can identify some action steps to attract qualified diagnosing providers, as well as providers with specialized training in treating severe behavior. Individuals with autism are also significantly more likely than their same age peers without autism to experience anxiety and depression symptoms, which have already increased significantly across age groups, regardless of disability status, in the past 2 years. There is a very strong research base to support the modification of some of your traditional evidence-based cognitive behavioral therapy strategies to address these needs. Unfortunately, many mental health providers are not explicitly trained in modifying typical therapeutic techniques to meet the unique needs of neurodivergent populations or populations affected by autism. And I believe that a statewide emphasis on equipping mental health providers, regardless of whether they see themselves as specialists in autism, would be a great way to effectively increase access to care and serve individuals with autism to address the mental health needs of this population. The final call to action I would present today relates to the growing population of young adults with autism in South Carolina. A 2017 CDC estimate identified that there are 5 million adults living with autism in the United States. These are adults who are members of our community with skills, talents, abilities, and a strong desire to contribute and enjoy a meaningful, productive day. Despite this, the National Autism Indicators report suggests that young adults with autism have the lowest employment rate among individuals with disabilities in their early 20s, with only 58% having worked for pay after high school. I hope we can work together to create opportunities for individuals with autism to contribute to their communities and obtain meaningful employment where they can feel proud of the work that they've done at the end of the day or at the end of their shift, as well as train employers about the many ways that individuals with autism can be valuable, dedicated, and highly productive and contributing employees. It's also vital to consider the long-term care of adults with autism as their parents and caregivers age. And I hope that South Carolina will be able to explore opportunities to expand options for individuals to live in positive, safe environments that promote meaningful activities and interactions for these individuals on a day-to-day basis, so that, like was mentioned earlier, we can help every single individual with autism in our state thrive and live up to their maximum potential. They've got so much to offer, and I appreciate you guys you inviting me to join today and your time and attention in support of the autism community.
Well, we thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions for her?
Are there any genetic markers at all for autism?
That's a great question. So there are genetic markers for autism. The more research that's been coming out in the past few years, there does seem to be a strong genetic component. It seems to be highly heritable. There are some genetic syndromes that do seem to be highly related to autism. Fragile X syndrome is the strongest or the most common genetic syndrome associated with the diagnosis of autism. And it seems to be potentially in many situations, there's a genetic risk factor that some early environmental, prenatal, or in early childhood or early neonatal period that might kind of activate that gene or impact severity of a diagnosis.
From a policy standpoint, I noticed that the intervention by the professionals into 21 is a lifelong disease, right? Or I shouldn't call it disease. I'm not sure what to call it.
For developmental disability or disorder, but absolutely, I think that is a huge policy area of need. That it does. Many families that I work with describe it as falling off of a cliff. That you receive services through the school system, through various providers throughout your throughout development, and then 21 or 22 happens, and all of a sudden, this individual who is enjoying social interaction opportunities, was enjoying going out into the community, that those opportunities essentially disappear and they find themselves in, you know,
So the policy is established by, 21-year-old is established by,
so primarily that would be through the public school system, that individuals with an IEP would be able to receive services through 21 years of age. And then many of, for example, ABA services, which our organization specializes in providing, most private insurance plans will not fund ABA services after 21 years of age. And so it does leave just this gap in open time. And so we are working to, as an organization, we are working to address that through having job training services. Right now, we are serving up to 21 through, that's also funded through a contract with Vocational Rehab. But we are expanding and seeing how we can support additional opportunities beyond age 21.
Anything else? Questions? Thank you again for being here. We appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you for the work you do.
Sure. All right, our next guest speaker is Colin Duresta,
And they're going to be on.
and she's online. Colin, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you all? I appreciate your time, and it is Duresta. You got that right first time. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna go as quickly as I can. I know you guys are busy, and I appreciate you having us. Okay, so what we want to talk about is the Client Assistance Program. I am with Disability Rights South Carolina, and the Client Assistance Program is a one of our programs that we have within our office. I'll start with a quick overview about Disability Rights South Carolina. We are a nonprofit. We provide free services statewide. We're mandated by state and federal law to protect the rights of people with disabilities in South Carolina. We're independent of all other agencies that provide services to people with disabilities, and our mission is to protect and advance the legal, civil, and human rights of people with disabilities in South Carolina. And we used to be known as Protection and Advocacy, PNA. We provide several services: information and referral, legal support, education and outreach, monitoring and investigations, and we advocate for public policy improvements. So the Client Assistance Program came to us in 2017. It was prior to that in the Office of the Governor, and this program has expanded our efforts to make sure that people with disabilities have the supports and services they need to help them work. So the big picture about how CAP works is we can help people understand their rights to services from Voc Rehab or the Commission for the Blind. We can help them better understand their services, better understand their rights, as well as understanding the right to reasonable accommodations and the right to be free from discrimination from an employer based on disability. So the meat of what we do a lot is working with people who receive services or want to receive services from SCVR or the South Carolina Commission for the Blind. So what does this mean in practice is that people should call us when they've been found ineligible and they don't understand why. When they need a better plan for work or for school training. Both of these agencies can help with funding technical college, certificate programs, four-year degrees, post-grad degrees. People should call if they're having trouble obtaining something they need for school or work. And a big reason why we wanted to reach out to you all is we know you have a wonderful transition staff at DDSN. So if they know of families having trouble getting the very important pre-employment transition services, that time from high school, leaving high school, going out into the world. We can help with that through the CAP program as well.
Who should they call, if you don't mind me asking? Is there
Absolutely. No,
I have
absolutely.
a child that needs some help with vocational rehab.
Yes. So we've got at the, right there. So we've got our helpline is toll free. We've got the email as well. So if anyone's got a question about their services with either of those agencies, whether they just hear something that doesn't sound quite right to them, whether they're confused about being denied or not liking the direction that their plans are going, they can call us and we can, either just offer quick information or get involved if they need if they need help one-on-one. It's a really easy process to get in touch with us because it is a very complicated system, especially as you're jumping off out of high school into the rest of the world. We also work with people who are unhappy or have difficulty with their services from independent living centers. So if they're having with ABLE, South Carolina, Walton Options, Accessibility, we are also, the CAP program also can help with that as well.
Thanks.
And I promise to be quick. So are there any questions?
Your services are limited to people who have difficulties with voc rehab and South Carolina Commission Blind, independent living. That's it. I mean,
For the CAP program, sir. So for disability rights, no. For disability rights as a whole, if you have a disability and you are concerned that you have been discriminated against, you can give us a call and they can either point you in the right direction with information on referral, or they can help. We work on education matters if you're having trouble with school districts. We work on employment discrimination. So we do a wide range of stuff through disability rights. This was just on the client assistance program.
it sounds like it's almost a legal aid system.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's wonderful. Other questions, commissioners? We certainly appreciate this information. I know that a lot of families will find this very helpful as they navigate the transition. I know I found it very helpful. Anyone else got questions? Thank you so much. Is there anything?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
For being with us.
Yeah.
All right. As we move on, I'm going to appoint the nominating committee for election of officers, which will take place in June, if I'm not mistaken. We'll go ahead and nominate. The nominating committee will be Robin Blackwood as the chairman. I'm going to also appoint Commissioner Malfris and Commissioner Woodhead. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And if y'all could come back with us for a report, I guess, next month, and then we vote in June. Is that correct?
On the officers, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's taken care of. Okay, let's move on to the finance committee.
Okay. I have a pretty brief update. We didn't have any items for the financial threshold for the month of April. So you'll notice on tab 4, our normal list, a usual typical list that we might vote on or share falls and looks, of course, in like what you have behind tab 4, but because we didn't have anything presented by the agency regarding threshold approval, there's nothing to report on regarding that. And then the second item from that Finance and Audit Committee meeting that we had on April 6th is some information technology upgrades. And I'm going to ask Greg Metz to come up and talk about those upgrades for the commission to kind of get an update on what's going on regarding some activity regarding technology, both in the regional centers and in this office and other places. So,
Robin, before he starts.
Yeah.
Who prepares this monthly DDSN staff report, financial approval and threshold report?
probably the CFO, or a staff member that assists her with that.
Just make sure, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but when they use this green, we cannot read what's under it.
Yeah.
So they have got to change that. If y'all put anything in green on your, we
Needs to
cannot,
be
we
a
absolutely
light-
can't
needs
see
to be a
what's
light
there. Yes, please.
Right, especially when.
If you'll just mention that to them, and if, Constance, you'll put that in the minutes, that way it's noted for next month.
Christie, you mean?
Christie, right at Christie calling her Constance, I'm having a day. I'm having
We're
a
just not used to
day.
seeing Constance in this room that much, so that's the problem.
Chris, you have to answer to both names today. You have both names today.
That's right.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, good morning. How's everybody doing?
Thanks.
So the information that I'm talking about will be on tab 5. So it's been forwarded to you in your packet. And previously in the Finance Committee meeting, we talked about these initiatives that we have going on with IT. And we wanted to make sure, that we're providing the cost of what we're doing for these initiatives. All of these are separate initiatives that will be hopefully completing in the next few months. The first one that I would like to talk about is the regional center PC replacement. We took a look at the workstations out there, the PCs in the regional centers, and there's quite a few that are very old, 7 to 8 years old. And so the standard and the recommendation from a lot of national Gartner and a lot of national committees, as well as our state committee that sets standards for technology replacement, says that we should be replacing these things in about 4 years. So if you think about it, it's about 25% of the agency that would get a replacement every year. We're a little bit behind on that. So the number for these would be, it'll probably be a little bit higher over the next couple of years until we can get into that rotation of doing 25% of the replacement. The one thing I need to mention, I guess, before I go any further, and Tracy can weigh in on this, is that all the numbers here that are being presented to you are included in the budget that was approved by the commission. So there shouldn't be any surprises here. So for the regional PC replacement, we're looking at around $149,000 for that, and that is to upgrade the PCs. There's some monitors that are in really bad shape too. So we'll be taking a look at those, doing an assessment on those, and we've done the assessment, and we'll be replacing those monitors as well. Any questions for the first initiative?
Gotta change that into life to obsolescence or something, because you read that and think, oh, we're starting when people are ending their life,
I can do that.
Scary there.
I can certainly do that for you, Commissioner, absolutely. So moving on to the next one is the digital signage. And what we're looking at here is putting digital monitors in the regions. We've worked with the facility administrator, Tommy McDaniel, and looked at all the facilities and got an assessment of where these monitors need to be. And what that'll provide to us is better communication out to the regional centers if we have a policy change, holidays, emergency weather, we can push all of that out to those monitors. And so it makes us a lot more efficient in the way that we share information out or, around the agency. And what the digital signage includes is it includes the monitors, it includes the players, it includes the support for all of that, and the initial setup for all of those players. And so the cost for that is $100,175. Any questions there?
I know the monitors in Africa application and in theory is to really just help the employees that work in our facilities to feel more connected to information so that they're included and they feel informed, and that hopefully will help improve a little bit of, morale, as well as, when you feel informed, you feel more empowered about things and you feel part of something, as opposed to not knowing what's going on, when something's happening, what the instructions or the information that they're supposed to be told about something, whether or not they're getting it or not, especially with shift work and people that come in different times of the day. They can really hopefully look at some of these monitors throughout their shift or throughout the week when they're working and feel like they have some information that they really weren't getting, possibly. So.
And that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because right now we're pretty much totally relying on email to communicate with these folks. And a lot of them are out on the floors and they don't have instant access to email. So this would provide them that information that, would be agency-wide, that would be, that is now being shared through email. And if you're out on the floor and dealing with some of our consumers, you might not get that information for several hours.
Right, and it might be time sensitive.
Right.
It might be, something that they need to do, whether it's for their shift or for their, their work responsibilities or something. So, yeah. Okay, great.
So any other questions, comments? Moving on to, I guess this would be the fourth item on the list, is the Whitman Center conference room upgrade. We have done upgrades to all of the other centers. I'm not real sure how the Whitman Center got missed. So we're just adding this in to get that center the same types of, or the same level of equipment that the other regional centers have in their conference room.
Will they be able to conference with here at that point once we get that up and running?
Yes, ma'am, they should be. And it's my understanding that they're having to go to a different facility now to do that. And so that's what we're trying to eliminate. Okay. And then moving on, any questions on Whitman Center? Okay. Moving on, the next item on my list is the central office laptop purchase. And this is for purchasing laptops to support our remote work staff here at DDSN. And just to make sure that the employees that have been identified to work remotely can do so and have the capabilities of doing that.
The numbers for that,
The numbers of
laptops needed, something close, or?
it's around 200 or so that were identified. And so it's the laptops and some components that allow the employee to have something similar to what they might have at their desk here. Any questions there?
This would be the property of the department though, right?
Yes, sir. And what that does is that gives us some control of how, from a security standpoint, it gives us some control on how folks are connecting, what they're connecting with, making sure that the laptops are up to date with antivirus definitions, and everybody's familiar with the Windows patches that take hours to download.
And the point of this is to work not anything private on these computers. This would be purely business work related.
Yes.
How are you going to check that?
So we can limit their access to what they can get to, and then we can do assessments on these machines to make sure that they're
I mean, nobody's standing over anybody. If you don't have, you're going to have some aberrant behavior no matter what. And I'm just wondering how you're going to monitor that. I could tell you some horror stories from some experiences I've had with magistrates who were using, never mind, I won't get into it, but it can happen it can happen. I mean, and it just, you know, you got your personal computer right there, and then you got the company computer over here, and,
So Commissioner Thomas, the way that we will attempt to handle that is we will have them to where they need to connect to us to use that laptop.
so this is the platform, it runs through the system.
Yes, sir. And then we'll be able, once they connect here to us, then we'll be able to monitor them just as if they're sitting at their desk.
Okay, okay. Good, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? And then, the last thing here is, was an addition, by Commissioner Malphus, when he asked for the agenda to be changed, which is the sound masking of rooms 180 and 247. And so what we looked at is, putting some sound masking devices around the perimeter of each one of these rooms. It can be turned on or turned off, depending on what the request is. And it will provide privacy in those rooms for, say, executive sessions or private sessions by the commission. If if you guys are having pre-meetings for committee meetings or committee meetings in 247, it'll provide privacy there. And basically it'll be sound masking devices installed in the ceiling around the perimeter of those rooms. And the cost of that is $8,300.
All right, that was just an update. We don't have to vote on anything. All that's included in the budget.
Yes, ma'am. And if anybody has any other questions about this, please feel free. If you think of something after the meeting's over, feel free to contact me and I'll be more than happy to talk through anything.
Perfect.
Yes, okay?
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, anything else in the Finance and Audit Committee?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, Commissioner Malphus. Let's go to the policy committee.
Thank you, ma'am. The first, I'm Barry Malphus, of course, the chairman of the policy committee. The first item on our agenda today is 800-03DD, which is the executive limitations policy, which of course relates to the executive director and her responsibilities and how those relate to the commission. We simply added some language there that we were already doing just to sort of make it official. She was already approving the executive portion of the organizational chart with the commission since she's been here, which we're thankful for. But we just wanted to make it official in that document. That would be doing from now on, and we would ask for commission approval, but once that is approved, assuming it is approved, we will need to approve the most recent organizational chart at the next meeting. So we need to be prepared to do that because our policy says we are. So, but anyway, that comes as a motion in the second out of committee. If there's any questions.
Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, the motion is first and second out of committee. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries and that is approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 800-08CP, which is.
Are you on tab 7?
Tab 7 now, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we are. I'm sorry. Next, it's the commission meeting input is, we made a slight change to the commission meeting input, both for the policy. We have a policy obviously on commission, on the input that the public can give to the commission, and also to the form that people fill out in order to give, in order to let us know they want to be on our, give us input. And the language was added to simply allow, just to be more user-friendly to those with disabilities, to add that they can attend by virtually or other ways if they would like to, although we encourage them to come here if they can and would like to do that. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody realized that we wanted to be more user-friendly and to make sure that they realized we were already user-friendly in that regard. So that comes as a motion and second out of committee.
All right, motion and second out of committee, any discussion?
That was the only change in that policy was what he,
That's right.
thank you.
All right. Motion and second, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries, and that motion is approved. Policy approved.
The next item on the agenda is use of consultants, which is probably tab 8. Yes, it is. And that one is some length, that has to do with professional advisor services in areas not covered under procurement for employees. And it simply made there was already provisions in there that had exceptions to procurement. And it just simply makes that the Finance and Audit Committee would have to approve any exceptions to those to procurement that we would decide to have as a consultant in our, simply to give transparency and awareness to the Finance Committee. So that comes as a motion and second out of committee.
All right,
You have
questions?
to approve every individual change, every individual request, even if it's $200 or.
I think what they're checking is the individuals, am I correct?
The contracts, all the contracts we're approving all consultant contracts. I mean, the Finance Committee is, and then if they think there's something that we need to bring to the full commission, they will. But they're just basically overseeing all the contracts because in the past we've had problems with that and we don't want to have it anymore in the years past. So we're just bringing
I got
awareness.
a quick question. I'm on the policy committee, but I failed to ask this question in the subcommittee. How many consultants do we have in the whole system? Is that a small number, 50, 100,
I think it's very small.
some number like that?
The
Laura, you
last I
want-
heard, it was not very
Seen the
many at
list, I
all.
don't know.
I know we brought in someone to work on cost reports recently. And
We
we
can get
brought,
that information for you.
yeah, there's
I
not
just
very
don't
many.
have it off the top of my head. I don't want to throw a number out and be wrong.
It's not an unbelievable amount, but we do have a few.
You hear stories, not necessarily from this, but you hear stories that sometimes emanate, and you don't know if they're accurate or not about
Yes.
misuse of consultants, and somebody's been a consultant for, 20 years and you don't know who that guy is.
Yeah.
And it seems like money just kind of, well, it can be something that conceivable. I think it's the rumor of
It would
that.
kind
as
of be
much
nice
as
to
it-
have a list of who the consultants are that are working for the agency
Right.
and what they're actually working on, what they actually do, and what they get paid. I think a list like that once a month or once a quarter even would be nice to send to the Finance Committee, don't you
I
think?
agree, yeah.
Okay,
I
I'll
like that
ask,
idea.
I'll make a note. Christie, if you'll make a note of that we'd like for them to do that maybe once a quarter. So that we can kind of see who's on our payroll, who's working for us, who's not.
Right, who's on the payroll?
Yeah.
That actually is part of the whole point of this committee, of this policy change, so that kind of thing would happen from now on, if we've been brought to, if it wasn't relating to procurement particularly, we would be brought to.
That'd be all the new stuff. I'm sort of asking a question about the old stuff,
That's true. This way it covers both. That's good.
Yeah, that would be great. Why don't we add that to our list of things that we'll do in the meetings? And just every quarter, maybe present that list of contracts so we can see if there's changes on it. That'd be great. Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions on this motion, on this policy? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. The motion, the policy is approved. All right, next.
The next and last item on our committee report today is 700-08 DD, which is a single case agreement for residential rehabilitation services. And
which is tab 9.
Yes.
sorry,
People
which
who
is
are
that
trying to
now,
follow.
sorry. I looked at another sheet whenever I'm doing this, I'm sorry. Which is tab 9 for those that need to know. The directive is due to, it has to do with procedures for requesting a single case agreement for residential services, which is basically an individual agreement for those that need services. The new directive is being implemented based on, because of fee for service. And it's actually interesting that the Department of Health and Human Services will actually have the final authority on this policy, but the directive outlines what our Department of Disability Special Needs, role is in this process. So it's a very important document that relates to fee for service that we need to update and get like every other, very similar to every other state in the nation. So we're very thankful for that. That also comes, as usual, as a motion second out of committee.
Okay, are there questions regarding this policy?
These are usually highlighted or any deletions are.
This is a new policy, am I correct,
So
Mayor?
This is an entirely new policy, maybe.
Yes.
That's why it's not corrected, sorry. And it relates directly to fee for service. That's the reason we needed it, so. And then the last section of our agenda, I'm going to ask
Hang on, we gotta take a vote.
oh, sorry, we didn't vote, sorry.
No, I just had that questions. Any other questions on that policy?
Very sorry.
All right, hearing none, motion is a motion, a second out of committee. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it, and policy is approved. All right, go
Thank you. The
ahead.
last item is other committee updates, which I'm going to ask, since they were related to staff, I'm going to ask Rory to present that to us, please.
I'm over here being unprepared. Give me 2 seconds.
That's all right.
Or if you will come to the podium, that would be great.
We have time for you. You're a very important member of our staff, so we will take the time for you.
That's under agenda, I'm sorry, I'm losing that one.
Committee,
Committee updates. Thank you. Committee updates. Committee updates. What actually is, there is not a tab for it.
morning.
Finally got myself together.
That's all right.
So my portion of the policy committee is that we have 3 directives that are currently out for public comment. It's 125 DD, which is disaster preparedness, 60302, which is employee health requirements, and 60305, which is around the occupational exposures of healthcare personnel. The comment period doesn't end until this afternoon, so we weren't able to bring them for approval at the commission meeting. So we will be bringing them back at the May commission meeting. And that's it.
Well, that's great.
That concludes our report for today. Thank you very much, and sorry for the length of time that it
That's
took.
right. Once again, we'd like to thank our policy committee and our finance committee. Both of you are doing an exceptional job keeping up with the tremendous amounts of work that's being done in these committees. And I thank you all, and I thank the staff who supports you in these efforts. I know it's a task in and of itself, and I do appreciate it.
Perfect.
Okay, Ms. Lori, I think you are next on our
I
agenda.
am. That's why I decided to just stay.
Idrd waiver.
Right. So I am prepared for this part. So the Idrd waiver renewal, as I mentioned last month, it was approved. We are continuing to work on implementation of the new performance measures, which I also talked about last month. We kind of have a whole new set of ways that we are measuring the quality within the waivers. We've also been updating our policies to align with the new residential tiers. You guys just approved one a few minutes ago related to single case agreements. There will be more on the horizon as we try to work through making sure that our policies are shored up to align with the new waiver services. We also are working with the Department of Health and Human Services on implementation of new services that were added to the document. Those were respite for multiple children living in the same household, kind of a rate that is tiered so that one respite caregiver could provide supervision to more than one child. Remote supports as part of assistive technology. That definition within the document is very specific about what can be provided, but it still is kind of a move in the right direction to start providing some remote supports to folks. And then a brand new service of independent living skills, which is kind of a habilitative service that's one-on-one instead of in a group environment, like a day activity center or something like that. Because they're all three kind of these brand new services, they take a little bit to get stood up. We've got a lot of policy work to do around them, so we're continuing to work on that. The community supports waiver renewal as well as an amendment to the head and spinal cord injury waiver were submitted to CMS around April 1st. They were due April 1st. They got there on time. I'm not sure the exact date of which ones were when they were submitted, but the Haskell amendment was completed in order to align with the new residential tiers and the service rates that were adjusted as part of the ID renewal. And the CS waiver was also updated to include the new service rates that were included in the ID renewal. And as a result, the cap for CS has been adjusted up to allow kind of the same level of service to be provided for people based on just the rate increases. So that's really all I have for the IDRD waiver renewal, unless you guys have questions. Sounds great. All right, fee for service. Fee for service update. So providers began submitting claims to the Department of Health and Human Services on April 1st. Okay. Since April 1st, we meet daily with the Department of Health and Human Services. There's actually 3 of us that meet at 3 o'clock every day. And we run through all claims that were submitted on that day. And we work through all the denials to make sure that there aren't any issues with the Medicaid billing system or the TheraP billing system that we've stood up, as well as work with providers who might be doing something wrong that's causing their claims to be denied. The really good news is overall it's been extremely successful. Extremely successful. Every day, we've not had an error rate that's even been close to 1% yet. So every day we'll do something like 14,000 claims are submitted and maybe we have 25 denials. And so we kind of work through those 25 denials, talk, try to figure out what's going on, identified a few little, blips in the system. Both systems are working properly. That's the good news, right? So there's no problems. There's not system problems. And the error rate has actually been a little less in the TheraP system simply because the web tool requires keying. So what you end up with is kind of human error, right? People transpose numbers or whatever. But either way, like I said, it's been very successful so far. Providers are learning a lot. We've tried to make ourselves as accessible as possible to them when they have questions. I've learned a lot about how the systems work over the last couple of weeks, so it's been kind of exciting for me too. We are working with TheraP to develop some enhancements to their system. I don't know if, I'm not sure how in the weeds I got with you guys about it to begin with.
I think you told us.
Yeah, there's kind of like this attendance module where people have to kind of double key stuff. So we're trying to work so that the workflow just takes the work that's done and converts it into units. We're looking at a target date of June for the first enhancement, which will be around the case management billing system in TheraP. And what will happen is they'll actually be able to use case notes to directly bill versus having to pull a report and enter it into attendance. And then following behind that, hopefully sometime in July, maybe early August, we'll have some enhancements that will tie documentation in residential and day to direct billing. One of the challenges with residential and day is there's not kind of a uniform documentation piece. There is in case management, so it's a little easier because it was already there. And then EVV will obviously change how the billing happens for providers that are doing adult companion and doing respite directly. So that's my update for fee for service. Any questions?
What is the turnaround time a provider submits a claim?
So providers can submit claims at any time that they want to. They can submit them every day, 100 times a day, once a day, whatever. As long as their claims are in by Friday afternoon, they get paid the following Friday. So it's a once a week payment out of the Medicaid system. And so what's happening, the other thing is we worked out with Medicaid, so there's this form called an 835 that is kind of a remittance advice that comes from Medicaid. So providers that are billing through TheraP, the 835 comes back through the TheraP module, so they can actually look and say, you know, this claim was submitted on this day, I was paid on this day, or it was rejected, or it was denied, or whatever. So, you know, they kind of have a really good system for adjudication of claims.
Have you received any complaints about turnaround time?
That's really great, it's that quick. That's much better than what we were dealing with before. It was a month behind, am I
I
correct?
will say that some providers have chosen, so the thing you have to understand with claim submission is now that they're Medicaid enrolled providers, it's completely up to the providers how often and how they want to submit claims. So some providers submitted claims the very first day. April 1st was a Friday, right? So we had actually, I think it was like 52 claims were submitted on April 1st. Those paid on April the 8th. Right, so, but some providers have yet to submit any claims because they want to submit it kind of all at one time. So we do have some providers that haven't submitted claims yet, and we're trying to work through some data as we're getting near the end of the month to figure out who hasn't submitted claims so that we can reach out and make sure there's no problems there. So.
It'd be nice, it must be nice not to have cash flow problems.
Golly, that's, I mean, it's good that they're getting it in 7 or 8 days. That's a, because it was a month before, am I correct?
Well, so whenever we were doing it by logs,
Yeah.
well, so 2 things. So prospective payment for residential was happening prior to the service. So that's a little, you know, that's better than every day. But that was happening twice a month and prior to service delivery. The retrospective payment stuff that was going on, which was day employment for people who live in the community and case management, we actually had logs that couldn't close until like the 5th working day of the month past when services were delivered. So there was kind of a delay there. So, but you know, things are going really, really well. Again, like I said, providers are learning. There's going to be some learning curves. But overall, it's been really good.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Lori. I just want to thank you and your team. You guys have done an exceptional job for us. And, you know, I know those of us that have walked this process through with you guys, it's been a hill that we've climbed, and we appreciate it. We know that you need a vacation this summer, so.
Maybe I'll take one.
All right. Courtney Crosby, our internal auditor.
I'll start with an update on our agreed upon procedures report. So we've completed the review of 30 of the 40 reports that we received from the DSM boards, and 10 of those are in process. The review's complete for 5 of the 9 private providers with June 30 year ends, with 4 in process. So 3 of the private providers have a September 30 year end. We've received and reviewed 2 of their reports, and we have not received the 3rd report yet. The reports will be due on April 30th for 34 private providers with a December 31st year end. We've already started receiving some of those. We have received 18, and those reviews are in process and expect to receive more before the end of the month. Our 2021 contract reductions are currently $34,700. So that includes late audit reports, late agreed upon procedures reports, and also late corrective action plans. So in addition to the reviews of agreed upon procedures, we've been prioritizing follow-up procedures to determine the implementation status of outstanding audit observations and corrective action plans from our internal audits. So you were sent a copy of that first quarter audit observation tracking report by email, and it came late yesterday afternoon, so I'm sure many of you haven't had a chance to look at that. So I'll just do a quick recap for you. So in March, we reported that we had initiated follow-up procedures with 7 providers. So 2 of those are complete, and we've issued the final engagement communication, which is a memorandum. The field work is complete for 2 and in the work paper review phase, and then 3 are still in an active field work stage. So once you receive your tracking report and you see an implemented status there, it'll be removed from subsequent reports. We consider that corrective action plan to be complete. So the tracking report you just received did reflect an implemented status for one of those caps, so it'll roll off of your report for the next quarter. Let me answer any questions for you.
I did look at it, and thank you for doing that. That really helps. Anybody else? Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate it. All right, Ms. Carol Stewart from the Talon Grade. Welcome. So to give us a little update from our legislative group.
Thank you, Chairwoman Rawlinson. I appreciate this, and I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to work with DDSN and the commission in consulting with you and representing you at the State House. It's been a real pleasure. It's been a learning experience over the past 6 weeks for me, and I've met several of you either by phone or in person. My old friend, I can't call you Commissioner, I always call you Senator Thomas still to this day. I really appreciate the opportunity. I've learned a lot, and thank you for your public service, because what you're doing is truly, truly public service in the eyes of the state. Really quickly, I just want to tell you we've had a really good week in the State House, as we did last week. Last week, the Senate Finance Committee fully funded your requests and will be on the floor next week with all priorities funded. That is very unusual for a Senate Finance Committee. If you've been following publicly what they did, just about everyone received cuts in Senate Finance. Senate Finance Chair Peeler is very interested in giving a $2 billion tax relief package, and that required a lot of cutting from what the House passed. So congratulations for building a strong budget and that being fully funded. We just left the Senate Medical Affairs Committee, where the Disability Rights of South Carolina had requested some changes to the 3 regulations on the agenda. Those changes were requested by Senate Medical Affairs Committee, and those changes have been submitted and are still on track to pass this year. I appreciate Commissioner Miller being there to show support for those as well. So we're still on track for getting those done with those minor changes that will be taking place this week. Senate Bill 1059 was requested by the IFC providers. It allows non-nursing personnel to administer meds. The House 3M committee, the full committee, passed that Senate bill, so it's on track. It will be on the House floor within the next week or two. It'll have to go through being sent over, and then it'll be on the floor. Senate 533 was in the LCI subcommittee. I monitored that subcommittee this week. That's the sub-minimum wage phase out via the task force. That bill apparently passed the Senate unanimously and also passed the subcommittee, the LCI subcommittee, unanimously as well. It will next go to full committee and then to the floor. House Bill 4597 is the bill that prevents discrimination against people with disabilities and allowing them access to organ transplants. That passed Senate Banking and Insurance Subcommittee this week, and will now head to full Banking and Insurance Committee. That's a House bill, so that one is potentially on track to pass as well this year. And then the last one we're monitoring, I understand DDSN is not part of that right now, and it's probably up as we speak, or just a few minutes ago, in full Senate Medical Affairs, is House Bill 4600 that provides minor revisions to the Adult Health Care Consent Act. And so far, we've seen no impact to DDSN on that. The other bills that we were asked to monitor, no action has been taken. They've missed the crossover deadline, and so presumably are dead for this year. So that concludes my report, Madam Chairwoman.
Welcome to be here. Welcome.
Thank you.
With us. We
Thanks.
enjoy having you, and appreciate you stepping to the table for it.
Absolutely, and I look forward to meeting each of the other commissioners today.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Carol?
I have a question. What's your name again? No, we go way back.
We go way back.
I consider her to be of all the folks that I knew years ago. It's 8 years. You hadn't changed a bit, by the way, in 8 years. To be one of the most efficient and proficient and clear representative for the various organizations that you work for. So I am really, really glad that you're.
Thank you.
This is great. This is great.
I appreciate it. Thank
Glad to
you.
have you on board.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. She gave us a lot of information. I would love to have this in some kind of email or something so I can review it.
Yes, we also put some of this in email for us.
Summary of-
what I said? Absolutely.
That'd be great. Thank you. Let's see who's next. Greg, you done your part? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
done. All right, Lori, let's bring you back up for head and spinal cord injury.
Sure. So I'm here today to talk to you about the head and spinal cord injuries post-acute rehabilitation initiative, or Peri, as we like to acronym everything around here. So the Peri program is some limited state funding that DDSN has to provide specialized inpatient and outpatient rehab to people with traumatic brain injury or spinal cord injury who are not insured or are underinsured, right? So the program has been funded since 2008. We get specific state appropriations for the program. When it started in 2008, we got $2.1 million. The current funding is around 3.6, I think. So what happens is, it seems like every year we kind of run out of funding because there's a lot of need out there. The way that it works is we have an RFP out. We have some specialized providers of rehabilitation to people with brain injury and spinal cord injuries. The current providers are Roper, Rogers CPs, Rehab Without Walls, and Carolinas Hospital. And people present to them with a need for rehabilitation and don't have the means in order to do it. They apply to us, and then we approve funding. So for this year so far, we've served 82 people in the program, but we only have $35,000 remaining for the fiscal year, and it's currently April. So once the funding is exhausted, we won't be able to serve anybody else. So what I'd really like to be able to do is add an additional $500,000 in funding for this fiscal year. We have asked for almost $500,000. I think the ask in the budget is like $463,000 or something like that for next year. So what we're asking for is consistent with the budget ask.
Question. Do you have a waiting list, did you say?
So at this point, we don't have a waiting list. Rehab for people post-injury, it's critical that rehab happen right away, right? So we don't want to get into a situation where if somebody gets hurt, they can't go to rehab for several months because it's just not nearly as effective. So we don't have a waiting list. Right now, we've been able to serve 82 people. We have $35,000 left. There's a cost, like the brain injury cost is a good bit less than the spinal cord injury. So the brain injury rehab is around $34,400, right? And the spinal cord injury is $77,600. So if somebody tomorrow had a spinal cord injury, we wouldn't have the funding.
The majority of spinal cord injuries take place during the summer months. So we haven't even hit the heavy spinal cord injury time period yet. So that's.
What is the fiscal year?
It ends June 30. So it'll roll back over on July 1st. We have kind of a recurring 3.6. We've asked for almost 500 more. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm gonna let you say that.
Yes, so this has been happening for a number of years. I don't know how long, where we run short on dollars.
Right.
So in our budget request, we asked for an additional $466,000 for this particular program. This is just and there have been prior years in which this shift in dollars has happened within the DDSN budget, but we wanted to bring it to you all to bring
visibility to it and make sure that we were following all of our
Are we getting a
procedures.
3-1 match on this?
No, there's no match.
It's not subject to match money?
Complete.
So Medicaid does not pay for rehab. Thank you.
Who are the arbitrators and what's the criteria
Who are the people who,
when they apply for it? Who arbitrates what happens?
so the criteria is they're screened by the rehab hospital that's asked, that has answered our RFP as somebody who could benefit from rehab. And they have either a traumatic brain injury or a spinal cord injury. And then that request is submitted to us. If our contractor says, you know, Lori is here, she needs rehab, we think she can benefit, then we pay for that. And, you know, these people are not DDSN eligible at the moment that they go to rehab. And our hope is that rehab is so great that they don't become DDSN eligible, right? So this is a service that we're providing to try to rehabilitate people to the fullest, you know, post-injury, so that maybe we can divert them from needing services at all.
The earlier you get them services, the better the outcome.
But we also have information about DDSN and services we provide and the rehab, and we have good relationships with these hospitals. So for people who do need long-term services, that becomes the referral as well.
Okay, so is that a motion? Do we need a motion for that?
I think it would be good to have a motion.
Okay,
That's about it.
what is the pleasure?
Exactly is the motion.
They're asking for 500,000.
Oh, yeah, I believe that.
Okay, second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions, other additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, and we're giving you 500,000.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. Those are spinal cord injuries, well, thank you. Those are brain injuries, well, thank you.
Yes.
Spinal. All right. Ms. Tracy.
Good morning, everyone. You have your spending plan versus actual expenditures update in your handouts, and we are right on track as we should be. If you'll look and see that the spending plan, of course, was approved at $851,178,37. And our remaining spending plan that we're at right now is the $226,796,089. We are right on track through the end of March is where this report was, and we are getting prepared for closeout right now as our fiscal year does end in June. And we're looking forward to getting you some updated reports on where we're looking for year end coming up soon as well during the next future committee meetings. Does anybody have any questions on this update? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, it says we should do a motion. Do I need to have a
We
motion?
always do, so. I
Yeah,
guess
let's
we
do it. Let's approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve,
spending
second.
plan.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, financial update is approved. All right, director's update. You made it just in time.
And I admittedly, I hope I don't cover material that's already been covered, and I'll try to be brief. Really quickly, something that I know is on everyone's mind is the 10% FMAP monies. We had a meeting with HHS yesterday. We have weekly meetings with them, and they provided some updates regarding those dollars. They have completed the following activities related to the activities approved in the American Rescue Plan Act spending plan. They have submitted waiver amendments to CMS to allow for use of the ARPA dollars for waiver service rate increases. These are the increases that have either already been implemented effective January 1st or are planned for July 1, 2022. They have submitted waiver amendments to CMS for the HASKI waiver to implement the changes that were implemented to the Idrd waiver. Lori might have spoken to that today. It looks like she's nodding. So
They've also submitted waiver renewals that added new services or enhanced existing services, and I suspect Lori also covered that. I apologize. And then there are some actions in process. They are addressing the needs for an updated incident management system. They're actively working on distributing funds identified in the spending plan for staff retention. And I just want to say the following is in bold and underlined. In all HCBS waiver programs, the staff retention funds identified for DDSN operated waivers will include all providers. And I say that slowly to emphasize it because I'm not sure that there is awareness. We're awaiting additional information, but I want there to be cognizance that that, for lack of a better term, bucket of $7 million is for all providers. And so we'll provide additional detail as we have it. They've also formed a work group to gather further input on staff retention activities to ensure that the funding incentivizes staff retention and stability of the provider network. I'm just gonna, Laura, did you cover case management updates? No. So I highlighted this to all the commissioners last week, but I want to provide visibility and just say thank you to all of the great partnership for this. But as of April 14th, DDSN hit some important milestones in the effort towards conflict-free case management. All the tasks and timeframes on the approved conflict-free case management transition framework have been completed through phase 2. All providers have approved transition plans that are being monitored by DDSN at the benchmark dates that were outlined in that transition framework. The phase 3 implementation is underway. That is due to be completed by the end of the year, so 12/31. We have to hit 50% by 12/31, and as of 3/1, we're at 46.8%. So we're making great progress, and to date, we have not had any issues with provider availability for cases being transitioned. So those are really exciting updates on the conflict-free case management, because that's a big lift.
Let me verify that. You said we're at 46.8% on phase 3.
Yeah, which is
That's the last
due
phase.
by
That's
December.
great. Yeah.
So we're
Okay.
ahead, which is fantastic.
That's right.
I want to highlight that Tuesday night, a number of the team went to the Fireflies game. We already talked about this?
No.
Okay, sorry. I was at the regulation hearing, so I apologize. I'm a little late to this. So at the, they hosted an Autism Awareness night, and DDSN was there. We had a table. We passed out more than 2,000 of these information pieces of paper, as well as an Autism Awareness ribbon. On the back, we also provided career information with DDSN. So it was a great outreach effort, and it was just a really great evening. There were a number of other providers, so many thanks to the Fireflies for hosting that event. And also just want to highlight that this month we are kicking off person-centered thinking training in our regional centers, and we believe that's going to be really positive for those whom we serve. And last, I know that we had a couple of our new hires highlighted at the beginning of the meeting. Also wanted to highlight that we now have a CISO at DDSN. He isn't here, but I want to just welcome that Jerome Frazier, who started on April 4th. We also have 2 new attorneys who started since our last commission meeting, Shayla Hayes and Aaron Oler. They started late in March, and they're both here. So, and I don't think that we've ever introduced Carolyn Benson, but she started at the beginning of the year, and since she's here, just want to connect a face with the name for you all. She's been doing great work.
What's Carolyn's position?
Attorney.
Okay.
And we threw her right in. She's been fantastic. So
Also wanted to highlight that we have a new HASKI project coordinator who started on April 4th, Inga Cottle. And that is a really tough to fill position. And it has been posted since August. So we're really excited about that as well. So we have a number of new hires each week. We're really excited. I think I mentioned before, we've had strong applicants. We are continuing to hire, and I always use this as an opportunity to share that we're hiring. Please consider working with DDS, and we work with a number of fantastic, talented, and mission-driven people.
Well, I've heard that, I think you mentioned to me about the update in the regional centers and how the numbers are growing there. You want to share that information?
Yeah, so we have also had a number of new hires at regional centers. Off the top of my head, I will say we were at Coastal on Monday, and I think, I'm looking for Janet. There she is. I'm looking for the other person in blue. I believe that the numbers were this most recent onboarding included 15, and the one before that was 26. So that, now some of those folks are part-time, but it's really exciting. And many thanks to the commission. We do believe that the increases that were approved in this special commission meeting the first week of January are partially why we're having a better applicant pool. So that those were effective. The increased salaries are really having effect. So and next month, just a quick preview, is our Employee Appreciation Month, and there we'll have more information and highlight the really important work at our centers and provide additional updates on the personnel.
Okay. All right, is that everything for you this month?
Yes.
Okay. All right, commissioners, that seems to be most of our informational stuff we've got to do today. But we are going to enter into executive session today to discuss personnel matter and contractual matter. And we will come back to close out the session once that is done. We will take a 15-minute point of comfort break before we reconvene into executive session. Do I have a motion to move into executive?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second received. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll move into executive session. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate the staff for your help. We are back from executive session. No votes were taken, no decisions were made. We are now in open session. Do we have, is there any other pleasure of the commission?
I have a motion.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I move that we, as a commission, adopt the Director, Dr. Fry's recommendation for South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs organizational chart updated on 4-20-2022.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second on the floor. Any discussion on the matter?
This be posted for the public?
Yes.
Yeah, this chart is housed on our website typically, the DDS website.
And it'll be updated.
So the new one will replace the old one that's currently on the website.
Yes. We'll make sure we get that done.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries and that is approved. I'd like to close today by just saying what a wonderful commission this has been and how much I've enjoyed working with them all. But as you all know, we've had lots of changes at DDSN over the last 6 months. One of the most outstanding changes we've had is to welcome Dr. Fry to our commission and to our agency. She has done unbelievable stuff, and I am very, very impressed with her work and feel very confident in her leadership abilities and in her ability to handle and run this agency. I sat down and just made a list, and it ended up being 15 things that this lady has accomplished in 6 months. And I'm gonna read them to you because I think they're that important. On 3-1, fee-for-service went in place under her leadership. On 4-1, direct billing went in place. She has established a cooperative relationship with HHS and its director. She's increased staffing in our regional centers. The deadline for completing cost reports, she set one of those, and all cost reports will be done by August the 1st. Strategic planning was started. We now have an RFP and we're waiting on the bid to be chosen. The physical plant improvements have been started in all of our physical plants, and we are making improvements to all the regional centers. Increased employee training programs. We've seen employee training programs improve in the last 6 months. She's reestablished the community clinic, rolled out an expansion as well as partnership with residency programs. She's ended the monopoly bed policy. She's ended 60-day vacancy payments. That happened on 3/1. 10 million of the 6.2 FMAP has been distributed to the network in January. She created and hired state-level case managers to improve the management of case management. She brought back positive behavior support trainings to be provided by the Centers for Disability Resources. And she rolled out person-centered thinking for regional center staff. That's outstanding. And I just want to thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, I move that bullet list be made part of our record or minutes, I should say.
Second.
Okay. Motions, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, I just want you to know how much we appreciate you. And this commission stands behind you and all decisions you make. And we are here for you and we support your decisions to run this agency as you see fit. Now, anything else from the commission? Do I have any other things from the commission that y'all would like to share?
Madam Chair, I agree with you wholeheartedly in what you just said, and I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Commissioner Miller, thank you, sir.
I just would like to add that I appreciate a lot of the hard work that Dr. Fry has thrown herself into this agency to really address our concerns as well as concerns from past legislative audit councils, past issues that she inherited, that she graciously took on and tackled. And we really appreciate it because we know the work that you've been doing to really uncover the background and the best way to move forward. So I just want to thank you as well and appreciate your dedication because it will make a difference to the people that we serve. And we really appreciate it. So thank you.
I agree. Anybody else?
I just think the number one thing I'd like to highlight is the fact that as far as I understand, in two of those, I won't read them off, but one of them I'll say, the monopoly for the bed payments is an example of giving people incentive to provide services. And I think that's the number one thing that, well, one of the not the number one thing, probably the top 5 things that we were lacking. And under her leadership, we are doing much, much better in that department, and I'm very thankful for it.
And I think the commission, I think we've come a long way. We've got a lot to learn still. I won't say we've learned it all because we still have a lot to learn. But we do appreciate our staff and we appreciate the employees here at DDSN who put in the time to help you with this work. And we have a lot of new staff members, and that's a good thing sometimes. And in our case, it is a good thing. And we welcome them all and look forward to many years working together at DDSN.
Yes.
Anything else today?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.